just moments ago. Something remarkable unfolded inside a federal courthouse, and it is already reverberating through the legal community and the political establishment in ways few anticipated. A longtime Trump ally, an individual who has hovered near the center of repeated controversies yet appeared insulated from criminal exposure, has been taken into federal custody. And the charges unveiled against this figure go well beyond the theories investigators were widely believed to be pursuing. This is not simply another indictment destined to dominate cable news for a single cycle before dissolving into the churn of America's polarized political climate. According to federal prosecutors, this arrest represents a pivotal escalation, one that could unravel carefully constructed defense strategies, expose networks of coordination that were never meant to see daylight, and potentially implicate individuals far more prominent than the person now in custody. Stay with this story through the end, because what is developing could reshape multiple ongoing investigations, create new legal peril for former President Donald Trump, and test a fundamental question. Can powerful political figures truly be held accountable when their conduct crosses legal boundaries? And if you want continued analysis of the legal and political aftershocks defining this moment, be sure to follow for updates as this story evolves. Picture the scene early this morning at a gated residence in South Florida. Federal agents arrive with a warrant signed by a judge. They approach the door, announce their presence, and execute the arrest with procedural precision. Miranda rights are read, cameras remain at a distance, but word spreads quickly. The individual being escorted away had, only days earlier, appeared on conservative media programs defending Trump and condemning federal investigations as partisan overreach. Yet the charges announced today differ sharply from what many legal observers anticipated. For months, speculation centered on possible financial improprieties, campaign finance violations, or document-related obstruction connected to classified materials. Instead, the indictment alleges conspiracy to obstruct justice, witness tampering, and making false statements to federal investigators. Within political and legal circles, the reaction has been immediate and intense. Republican lawmakers who have publicly defended this ally are scrambling for information. Conservative commentators who framed prior investigations as technical or procedural are recalibrating, because these allegations do not fit neatly into the narrative of bureaucratic overreach or minor infractions. They describe deliberate acts, coordinated efforts to conceal evidence, influence testimony, and mislead investigators. And that is where the gravity of this moment begins. This is not a peripheral player in Trump's orbit. According to court documents, this individual attended key meetings, participated in sensitive discussions, and maintained direct lines of communication with members of Trump's inner circle. Prosecutors had reportedly sought cooperation from this figure for months. The decision to arrest rather than negotiate suggests that talks collapsed or that investigators believe they now possess evidence sufficient to proceed without voluntary cooperation. To understand why this arrest has triggered such alarm, consider the nature of obstruction charges. Obstruction of justice does not exist in isolation. It presumes an underlying investigation that someone allegedly attempted to interfere with. In this case, the indictment references conduct connected to multiple ongoing probes: the classified documents investigation, the January 6th inquiry, and possibly aspects of state-level election interference cases. According to the publicly released portions of the charging documents, prosecutors allege that the defendant engaged in coordinated efforts to prevent investigators from accessing relevant evidence, to influence how potential witnesses would testify before grand juries, and to generate misleading documentation intended to obscure the factual record. Importantly, prosecutors cite specific communications and meetings. The indictment references emails, text messages, recorded conversations, and testimony from cooperating witnesses. This is not framed as speculation, it is presented as documented activity. Why does this matter beyond the fate of one individual? Because obstruction and conspiracy charges create what legal professionals often describe as a ladder. Once a conspiracy is alleged, statements and actions by one participant can become admissible against others. Liability extends to all who knowingly join the scheme, and lower-level participants face powerful incentives to cooperate in exchange for reduced sentences. That dynamic is central here. Prosecutors are not solely seeking conviction of this defendant. They are building a framework that could allow them to pursue anyone involved in the alleged obstruction, potentially including attorneys, political operatives, and, if evidence supports it, higher-ranking figures. This development complicates Trump's broader legal strategy. His defense teams have often argued that investigations are politically motivated or legally flawed. But if prosecutors demonstrate active obstruction efforts to conceal evidence or shape testimony, that narrative becomes more difficult to sustain. Obstruction suggests awareness of potential wrongdoing. Now consider the political ramifications. This arrest comes at a time when Trump continues to command strong support within Republican primary polling. Historically, indictments have not diminished his standing among core supporters. In some instances, they have appeared to reinforce claims of political persecution. But this case introduces a different dimension. Allegations of witness tampering and coordinated concealment of evidence are not easily characterized as minor procedural disputes. Republican lawmakers now face a delicate calculus. Defending the arrested ally risks appearing to condone obstruction of justice. Distancing themselves risks alienating a base that views Trump as embattled by partisan forces. Democrats, meanwhile, tread carefully. The Biden administration has repeatedly emphasized that the Justice Department operates independently, yet political rhetoric is inevitable. Democrats may argue that this arrest underscores concerns about lawlessness. Republicans may assert selective prosecution. The challenge for both parties lies in maintaining public confidence that the judicial process is grounded in evidence, not politics. Behind closed doors, another question looms. Will this defendant cooperate? Federal obstruction and conspiracy charges can carry substantial prison exposure. Cooperation agreements can dramatically reduce sentencing risk. Prosecutors typically weigh the value of insider testimony carefully. If this individual possesses direct knowledge of decision-making at higher levels, cooperation could be transformative. Yet cooperation comes at personal cost. Trump has publicly criticized former associates who cooperated with investigators. Political exile, reputational damage, and intense media scrutiny often follow. Prosecutors understand these pressures. They may offer assurances regarding sentencing recommendations or protective measures. Whether such negotiations occur remains unknown. If cooperation does materialize, the ripple effects could extend across multiple investigations. Testimony in one federal case can inform strategy in others. Patterns of conduct rather than isolated incidents can emerge more clearly when insiders provide context. The broader legal landscape surrounding Trump is already complex. The classified documents investigation examines retention of national defense information and alleged obstruction. The January 6th inquiry focuses on efforts to challenge the 2020 election results. State-level proceedings in Georgia scrutinize alleged attempts to influence election administration. Each probe has distinct communications and timelines sometimes overlap. This arrest intersects with at least some of those threads. And beyond immediate legal strategy lies a constitutional dimension. If investigations accelerate and potential indictments expand during an active presidential campaign, questions arise about timing, governance, and the intersection of criminal law with electoral politics. Department of Justice policies, constitutional interpretation, and practical considerations would all come into play if prosecutions advance while a candidate seeks or potentially regains office. There are no simple precedents for such scenarios. American institutions would be navigating largely uncharted territory. So what happens next? Expect vigorous public statements from Trump and his allies. Claims of political targeting are likely. Defense counsel for the arrested individual will challenge the indictment, perhaps arguing overreach or insufficient evidence. Simultaneously, behind the scenes, legal teams will evaluate options, litigation strategy, pretrial motions, and potential discussions about cooperation. Other figures within Trump's orbit will be watching closely. The decision this defendant makes fight or cooperate may influence others facing exposure. In the coming weeks, court filings will provide additional clarity. Pretrial hearings may reveal more about the government's evidence. Political reactions will evolve. Media narratives will crystallize. Longer term, this case serves as a test of institutional resilience. Can prosecutors pursue cases involving powerful political figures despite intense partisan backlash? Can courts safeguard due process when defendants wield significant public influence? Can juries weigh evidence impartially in highly charged environments? These questions extend beyond any single defense.